Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, Canadian Missing Project. That is Huck L. Berry. Yeah, that's a tongue hanging out the side of her mouth. She's been outside running around, rolling in the dirt, doing what Great Pyrenees do. Having fun, chasing birds. He's a good girl. He's a good girl. Yeah, you're a pretty girl. Oh, that's a good girl, huh? Oh, that feels good, Dad. Oh, that feels good, huh? Oh, yeah. You like that, huh? Yeah. He's a good girl. He's a good girl. Yeah. Yeah, she's been a good girl. Yeah. Yeah, and it's pretty nice outside right now. It's about 73, perfect weather. So, she's having some fun. Friends, just a reminder, if you haven't seen it yet, Missing 411 National Parks, my latest movie. Yo, those are UFOs flying around Mount Rainier, factual. If you haven't seen the movie, you can go watch it right now over on Amazon. You can rent it for next to nothing. If you do, go over there and watch it. Please, please leave a review. We need the reviews. They're very, very helpful. Yes, and I hope your summer is going exquisitely well. Mine is going a lot better in the last 24 hours. I lost my deep voice. I feel much better. And Huck's a lot happier because I was kind of slow walking around the house for a couple days because I didn't feel great. But it's been almost 3 years since I had anything really wrong, bad cold or anything like that. So I'm grateful I rebounded fast. Lots of vitamins, lots of Huck coming over, putting her head on my lap, going, "Oh, you don't look good, Dad." Yeah, thanks, I know. Before we get right into the case today, which the case is a 10 out of 10. So, hold on. This incident came out of a national park. It said, missing hiker found dead between two national parks after the family receives a strange Garmin satellite alert. I'm telling you this story for a couple of reasons. First of all, a Garmin is a device about the size of your phone, very small, and it's a communication device between you, a satellite, and whoever you want it to send it to. It can send signals every couple minutes to a specific computer that you authorize, family member, friend, loved one, showing your progress on a trail. It's kind of cool. It also has an ability, if you pay a little more, that you can text back and forth on the device. And, of course, it has a personal locator beacon. You just hit it and activate it, and away you go. It's expensive per month, which is why I don't talk about it. I don't rep it. I don't think you need it. You can buy just a personal locator beacon that has no fees per month. It's like $280 to $350. And then a lot of personal locator beacons now are on your phone. Yes. So let me go on. Evidence suggests that the man may have fallen from a steep, high-altitude ridgeline that separates Grand Teton National Park and Jedediah Smith Wilderness. Wyoming. A man hiking between two popular national parks in the West was found dead nearly a week after being reported missing. Teton County Search and Rescue said a 28-year-old man from Australia was found dead near an area known as Wigwams on the west slope of the Tetons in Teton County, Wyoming. Officials said evidence suggests that the man may have fallen from a steep high-altitude ridgeline that separates Grand Teton National Park and the Jedediah Smith Wilderness. That's some lonely area out there. National Park officials said the man had been attempting a through hike of the Continental Divide starting in Canada. Whoa! That's a brutal one, folks. Hiking right down the Continental Divide from Canada, that is no easy task. The man regularly updated his family in Australia with a Garmin sat service. On July 19th, the man gave an update from a location near Old Faithful, Yellowstone National Park, and described his planned route in the Tetons, Gros Ventre Wilderness, Wind River Range, and the Divide Basin, officials said. 4 days later, the family received a Garmin check-in without coordinates or a message, as well as a video via Facebook Messenger that they believe placed him in the Tetons. I'll stop there. Part of what Garmin does is it identifies your location minute by minute, point by point. We received a Garmin check-in without coordinates. I don't understand that. There was no communication afterwards, and the family contacted the park officials on July 27th. Just saying, I find that really suspicious and strange. And I don't mean criminal suspicion, like somebody hurt him and... No, I find it weird. Park officials determined that the Garmin tracking points on July 23rd placed the hiker near the wigwams, and that's when the case was turned over to the Teton County Search and Rescue. Good search and rescue team, by the way. They have a lot of practice, and they're good people. On Wednesday, a search and rescue team used a helicopter and flew to the hiker's last presumed point that Garmin gave. From the air, the team spotted a bright orange backpack, and soon after they located the man below the ridge south of North Wigwam Park. There's the best example about why you want to use a real bright colored backpack. Because if you're in deep trouble, you want that thing to stick out. I'm just saying. I mean, you want earth tone backpack, blah, blah, blah. No, bright orange. His body was recovered and transported to the Teton County Search and Rescue headquarters in Jackson before being transferred to the Teton County Coroner's Office. The hiker's identity was not provided. The investigation remains ongoing. No additional information is available. Several things about this that I really question. Not normal for Garmin to give out any details without coordinates. I'm not sure I've ever heard of that. Not normal for a man to fall from a high altitude during the summer. No. So you probably are guessing where I'm going with that, but since they gave no details about were his boots on, was he missing clothing, they gave nothing. Nothing. So, anyhow, you don't need a Garmin. I'm just reporting what they're saying in here. Now, before we get right into this case, and I'm telling you it's a humdinger. If you haven't watched Missing 411, the UFO Connection, please go over to tubi.com, tubi.com, and you can watch all three of my movies, Missing 411, Missing 411 The Hunted, and Missing 411 The UFO Connection, for free. If you haven't watched them, watch them in that order. And if you haven't watched them, shut this video off right now and go watch them, because this will have a lot more relevance to you if you have watched the UFO Connection. Well, why, Dave? Because in that movie, I cover this area where this person disappeared in. Now, when we're making a movie, I write down the storyline. I sit down with the director and the producer, and we go over the logistics of making the movie. And we try to make it reasonably logistically sound so that we go point to point to point. So we don't go way back, cover that area, come way back here. No, we want to go boom, 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 boom. In that movie, The UFO Connection, we started on the West Coast and we moved east. And we ended up filming in Wyoming near the end of the movie. And Wyoming gave us some of the strangest cases I've ever seen in my life. And when I laid this out for the director and the producer, yeah, I'm the executive producer, but I take everyone's input and I want to hear what they have to say. If I'm missing something, If I have a big blind spot in my research, I want them to bring it out. That's why they are there. So we went through it all, and then we leave, and there's like a week break, and everybody goes through the cases that I put in front of them. They do their own research. They see if they can find any other cases in that area that I might have missed. In short, my research was solid. There were no cases that I missed, and we went forward and made the movie. Now, friends, I like to say I don't miss a lot of things on research, especially archival research. Every once in a while, somebody will send me something in saying, yeah, this person was found a month later, and I do the research again on it, and I don't find that newspaper or that magazine that this person's citing anywhere in our sources. So I don't know what to think. Now, this case, I've never heard of it before a week ago. And it happened in 2003. This would have fit perfectly in my movie, The UFO Connection, based on its location. And perfectly, I mean perfectly. So, now you've come back from watching The UFO Connection. Great, I'm glad you're here. So this man's name was Clifford Russell Haux, H-A-U-X. Stop right there. Yes, German. Yes, the area that he disappeared in Wyoming is filled with German disappearances. And I don't mean that there's a German community there. I mean, in one case I cited in that movie, the man was on vacation from Minnesota in that area hunting German, and he disappeared. Something weird's going on here, folks. Trust me. So there's Clifford, 42 years old, missing November 28th, 2003. This case got very little press, even when I went back to look at it. Now, when I did the way back look on it, Clifford's dad actually died in 1963. He had the exact same name, Clifford Haux. And he died in Wyoming during a construction accident when a crew was digging a 9-foot deep sewer ditch, caved in, and buried him alive. He didn't survive. So Clifford grew up essentially without a dad. He liked to be called Russ, not Clifford. He lived with his wife and 3 kids in Mills, Wyoming, kind of a suburb of Casper. And he worked on oil rigs during the week throughout the state. A lot of times these guys on the oil rigs work 2 weeks in a row, and then they're off for 3 weeks. And so they take a suitcase with them with all their clothes because they're not sure where they're going to end up. The pay was really good. That's kind of a typical rig worker's schedule. Now, the vehicle was a Ford Ranger pickup, and it was a little odd because it was purple in color, not a normal Ford Ranger pickup color. Keep that in mind. Now, recent articles stated he disappeared on November 28th, 2003. Department of Justice in Wyoming says he disappeared on November 26th, 2003. Now, I tend to believe the 28th article because the 28th disappearance because the 28th was a Friday, and that kind of fits into what was happening here. Now, the friends of Russ described him as very hard worker, really well liked by everyone who was around him, was a guy who would help when he was needed, didn't try to skirt work, just well-liked guy. Well, on November 18th, one of Russ's best friends had got his Chevy Suburban stuck in the high desert in a river wash area. He eventually got a ride out, and we're going to use the 28th as a date. Russ's friend, after work, asked him if he would help him give him a ride out to the site to get his Suburban unstuck. The pair went out there in Russ's truck, and they also had a small forklift to help him get the Suburban out. So They drive out there. Howe drove him to the scene. And he tried to cross this dried out riverbank where the Suburban was stuck, and he got stuck, but he was able to back his way out. They worked on the Suburban for a while. They eventually got it out. And Russ's friends they said their goodbyes, and Russ was going back to Mills, Wyoming for the weekend when he saw him driving away out in the desert. And then his friend turned around and went back to town. Now, like I said, the 28th was a Friday. And it was surmised that this was the end of the guy's week and Russ would be driving back to Mills. Russ never got home. It was stated in various articles that Russ's wife got extremely nervous when he didn't come home. He was Mr. Reliable, family man. Not showing up was not normal. Eventually, a missing person report was filed. Now, the sheriff in this incident never revealed the name of the friend that was with him, that last saw him. But the sheriff came to the friend's defense and said, no, all the investigation we did into this said that that friend was his best friend. They did things together all the time. They were buddies. And he was never a man of interest in the case. So I'm a little confused why they never released his name. Under those circumstances, you think they would, but they didn't. And in fact, the family has never met that man and never heard his story about what happened there at the end. Find it a bit odd. Just saying. Well, the family reports Russ missing. As far as they know, he was last at a drill site. Day was over and he was driving home. They didn't know he was going to go help somebody out in the middle of the desert get a car free. So the sheriff had to backtrack, contact the oil drilling company, contact the people on the site, and then eventually get to the friend that was with him. So you can see it was kind of cumbersome to figure this out. Eventually, the friend took the deputies out to the site where he got the car stuck. And the deputies saw the tire tracks of the Ford Ranger, Russ's truck, leaving the scene. Well, if you don't know, Wyoming is a bit windy. Tracks don't last a long time out there, especially in the sand and in the desert, high desert area. The area that this happened in was near Wamsutter, west of Rollins, and east of Rock Springs, in an area that I have chronicled disappearances many times. Many times. Now, if you've watched the UFO Connection, you know about Cheyenne. You know about the Medicine Bow National Forest. This is the area of Wamsutter right here. And this is Rock Springs. All of this area right here is a cluster of missing people. Off the chart numbers of weirdness. I'm just saying. Now, the sheriff goes out there, obviously sees that there was a car stuck there, there's tracks everywhere, and this ranger's driving off in the middle of the desert. They follow it as long as they can. Sheriff says, well, we need a search and rescue call out for this, obviously. So he does it. And they look, and the temperatures the night that Russ disappeared were between 27 and 10 degrees. And when you add wind chill to that, that's very cold. So the SAR search and rescue organizations start to converge on the scene. The family hears about this and says, hey, we want to go out and search too. Well, this is pretty far out in the middle of nowhere. The sheriff says no, which is the right thing to say. The last thing you need is to be searching for family members that are now lost. You don't want that. Russ's brother hears about what's going on, and he hires an airplane to search. Brilliant idea. Why? It's a desert. It's flat. If you're in an airplane, you can see for miles. You're looking for a purple truck. This shouldn't be rocket science, right? Well, the daughters were questioned by the sheriff about, well, what was your dad like? And, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, not the daughters. The sheriff talked to the wife. Wife explained that he was a true outdoorsman, knew his way around the countryside, had been working in the oil rigs out in the middle of nowhere for a long time, knew how to survive in the outdoors, blah-de-blah-de-blah, everything you want to hear, right? Well, the SAR teams covered an area of 1,000 square miles by air, by ground. That's a lot of area. But it's almost like covering an ocean because it's so flat and there aren't a lot of big trees out there that would conceal a truck. Well, it went on through December 7th. Nobody could understand why they weren't finding the truck. At the time, I can imagine that search and rescue teams were thinking, well, maybe he made it out and it's parked in a garage somewhere because they're not seeing it. I can imagine they're saying that. But he was a family guy who didn't go out and get drunk, didn't mess around, stable guy. Well, 2005 rolls around. A hunter finds the truck southeast of Rock Springs in a small area called Adobe Town, middle of nowhere. And the truck was located not by searchers. Search and rescue teams get there, and the sheriff gets there, and they find a broken shovel and broken pieces of wood. The wood was jammed under some of the tires in an attempt to give it some traction. It appeared as it was an effort to free the truck that was stuck in another dry riverbank. And there was another round of massive searches of this region to look for Russ. The local search and rescue stated at the time that most people are found within a mile of their vehicle. Okay, that kind of seems reasonable. Now remember, Russ's brother had a plane looking for this truck. News articles said that the truck was located 6 miles from the point he was last seen. My best guess is it's a lot more than that. I'm just saying. The area that the truck was found in was quoted as being an elk hunting area, and nobody could understand how 2 years of elk hunters could miss the truck. The sheriff said that the truck was unlocked, and they found Russ's suitcase and his clothes inside. And nobody could truthfully and adequately explain how that truck was missed. Now there's a picture that showed the truck. It's an old picture, but I'm going to show it to you, and I think you can get it. Here's the truck right here, the back end of the truck. Here's the back window of the truck. It's pointed that direction. There's a deputy here taking a picture of the truck. Now if you notice, there isn't any road here. There's no big trees around it. These are just bushes. It doesn't make any sense to me how that truck wasn't seen from the air. And I'm sure that this deputy taking the picture is thinking the same darn thing. And when I'm looking, I don't see anything, any tire tread marks leading up to that. Now, granted, it had been a couple years and plants grow, etc. But if I was that deputy, I'd be looking to see if there was any tire marks going into that area. Now, why would Dave be saying the thing about the tire marks? Well, there was an article, and Russ's daughters, who are older now, mature, are still trying to figure out where their dad is. It's been 23 years. And his remains still haven't been found. Now, after 23 years in the Wyoming environment, you're not going to find much of Russ, unfortunately. In fact, you may not find anything. But what you will find are the boots he was wearing, a leather belt if he had been wearing that, wallet, keys, they're not going to blow away. In some underwear, there's a rubber band in the underwear. That will still be there. But if he died out there in the wilderness, there's going to be a lot of animals, even small animals, that would carry away his bones and chew on the bones for the calcification part. That's why you're not going to find a lot. But you should be able to find those few things I described. Now for the nitty-gritty on this. As I stated, it's a cluster area of missing Germans. He is another German. I couldn't believe it when I found this case. Honestly, I couldn't. Water. The two riverbanks that eventually ended up sucking these two poor men into, made by water. Russ was good when he was working to free his friend's car. Everything was fine. His friend saw Russ drive away. All fine. Point of separation. After he separated from his friend, something happened. Right? No tracks. Remember what I told you, the sheriff couldn't follow the tracks from the scene, right? Well, let's talk about some of the prior cases from this area. Southeast of Rock Springs. So this is where Russ was last seen, in this area, in the yellow, right where my finger is. He's found over here where that X is, at almost the exact same place, I tell you in the movie, where a teacher from Rock Springs got their truck stuck in a little wash. He was a hunter. They think he got out and was never found again. German. I can't make this stuff up, folks. Now, in the Medicine Bow National Forest, right here. Okay? Medicine Bow National Forest. A good portion of that movie had to do with a man named Carl, who also worked on drill sites, who had a day off and went deer hunting and elk hunting. He gets out there by himself, and I explain in the movie what he said with his own words. He got abducted by aliens, taken in a craft. I can't make it up. You watch the man, you listen to him. Don't call anybody a liar. Do I believe him? 1,000%. Why? Because it was physical evidence, and there's never physical evidence in an abduction case. Carl has since passed. God rest his soul. He was a good man. And I can tell you that everybody in that room, when we filmed this segment, they all thought, wow, the guy's telling the truth. There wasn't anybody who questioned him. And you'll see why if you watch the movie. Now, as you go further east, Medicine Bow. Go further east, Cheyenne, Wyoming. Gee, why would you bring that up, Dave? Well, Cheyenne is famous for Warren Air Force Base. Warren Air Force Base has missile silos, ICBM missile silos. And it was confirmed by the Air Force through the Disclosure Project that UFOs flew above those missile silos in Cheyenne and shut them down for a period of time. Oh, really? If you didn't know about that, this is true. Now people will think, well, I'm in the middle of Wyoming, in the middle of nowhere. You sure have a lot of strange UFO activity. No kidding, Sherlock. I have no idea what the interest is by UFOs in that Wyoming area. But I have presented an entire string of nothing but facts. German people missing, no tracks, no evidence where they went. We have one person that came back alive who told the story. We have dozens of people who have seen the UFOs in these areas, validated by what happened at Warren Air Force Base, validated by Carl, who saw them. You know, people say, well, Dave, what's your theories on this? I interviewed some of the smartest investigators with MUFON on Carl's case, and they stated that his was one of the only cases in the history of UFO abductions that had physical evidence. They would not say anything negative about the incident. They all believed it was real. Now, I don't know what happened to these people. I present to you facts. I let you come to your conclusions. Now, am I saying Clifford Haux? No, I'm not saying anything. I'm just connecting the dots. How weird is it that they have two huge searchers for Clifford and they can't find him? And they couldn't find his truck. When you're looking for a missing person walking through the middle of the desert, that's a pretty small target. When you're looking for a Ford truck in the middle of the desert that's not covered up, I just showed you the picture. How do you miss that? Huh. Was it even there? Who knows? Well, friends, please share this video because I want others to see what we're doing here. And place a link on your social media sites. I'd appreciate it. In the meantime, you are greatly appreciated. You guys are smart folks. You get it. And it's that critical thinking skill that sets you apart from the others. Kindness. Remember, it's the key to our world. I think someday after we die, if we're ever judged, one of those things will be on kindness. And since it doesn't cost us anything, why wouldn't you be kind? Be safe. Paulides out.